The day I announced I was quitting the business, Skylar was photographed coming and going with the one that supposedly got away. Someone joked online, "No matter how hot your boyfriend is, he still has to make way for the one that got away." Later, after I'd left LA, it just so happened that Skylar was at the press conference for his movie. A reporter asked her a question. "We heard Leo Chun quit acting because he's going home for an arranged marriage." Skylar scoffed, but her face was full of confidence. He wouldn't. The 20-year-old Leo definitely wouldn't have. But now Leo was 27. Life's too short. It was time for me to run toward the people who loved me and the people I loved. Give the lead role in this movie to Ethan. I don't want to have to tell you a second time. Is there a problem? Skylar's voice was cold. She must have been furious, because her knife and fork clattered against her plate, making a harsh sound. I swallowed hard, forcing the tears back. The phone on the table wouldn't stop vibrating. As I left the private room to take the call, I ran right into Ethan, who was about to push the door open. He smiled at me. "I heard it's your birthday today. Skylar invited me to come celebrate with you." On his wrist was the designer watch Skylar had paid a fortune for at an auction the other day. It was beautiful and blinding. I just nodded, walked around him, and found a quiet corner. When I answered, it was Aaron's lazy, gentle voice on the line. "Happy birthday, superstar. Grandpa's back in the country. Brace yourself. That whole arranged marriage thing is probably..." The marriage was something my grandpa and his old army buddy had arranged when I was a kid. After Grandpa got sick and went abroad for treatment, no one ever brought it up again. Until now. I lowered my eyes and cut Aaron off. "Aaron, I'll do it. I'll agree to the marriage. I know the Lin family has a lot of rules. I'll wrap things up here as fast as I can. And then, I'll quit the business." When I got back to the room, Ethan was already sitting cozily next to Skylar. In front of him was the steak Skylar had just cut up. "Leo, Skylar said you were willing to give me the part in the melody. I know the melody might not be that important to you, but for me it's a crucial step in my comeback." "Leo, thank you." His tone was casual. I didn't hear much gratitude, but I heard a hell of a lot of smugness. I pressed my lips together, about to speak, but Skylar jumped in first. "What's there to thank him for? It's just a movie. Besides, you were always a better fit for it than he was." The indulgence and affection in Skylar's eyes were completely undisguised. Aaron's earnest warning suddenly echoed in my ears. "Leo, Skylar is not the one for you. I'll be blunt. If she won't respond and won't go public, she just doesn't love you enough." It wasn't that she didn't love me enough. She didn't love me at all. Aaron was just trying to spare my feelings. I pushed down the uncontrollable sadness welling up inside me and forced a smile. "Director Lee personally invited me to take this role. I don't have the authority to just give it away. You of all people should know that no one can interfere with Director Lee's casting decisions, Skylar." Skylar shot me a look, her voice utterly cold. "So you'll turn it down. 7 years in the industry, from small indie projects to the big screen." Skylar had watched me grow every step of the way. She knew better than anyone what a milestone Director Lee's film, The Melody, would be for my career. But now, suddenly it didn't seem that important anymore. It wasn't that the movie wasn't important. It was that Skylar wasn't important anymore. I was silent for a long time, until Skylar's impatient voice broke through. "Is there a problem?" I gave a self-deprecating smirk. "No problem." Before going back to the room, I had called Director Lee to apologize. He tried again and again to change my mind. I had spent 3 grueling years honing my craft at a theater company just for a shot at this film. It was only when he heard I was getting married that he stopped. Skylar frowned almost imperceptibly, as if she hadn't expected me to cave so easily. "Leo, don't be dramatic. I've already found a few other scripts that are perfect for you. You can pick one in a few days. Take with one hand, give with the other." Ever since Ethan came back, this was how Skylar had taken away almost all of my resources. If Ethan wanted it, I had to give it up. During one of our worst fights, I had asked her, "What if one day he wants you too? Will you make me give you up for him?" Skylar had said he wouldn't ask. Only now, Did I finally understand what she meant? He wouldn't have to ask. It wasn't that she wouldn't give. As we left the restaurant, the first snow of the season began to fall over LA. Skylar took off her coat and naturally draped it over Ethan's shoulders. I only glanced for a second before looking away. Skylar cleared her throat, a little flustered, and started to explain. Ethan just got back to the country. His health isn't fine, Ms. Booth. My car is here. I'll be going now. My private car pulled up smoothly in front of us, followed by a familiar sports car. I smiled, interrupting Skylar, feeling surprisingly calmer than before. As the car door opened, Ethan suddenly called out to me. Leo, let's go together. Let Skylar give you a ride. Besides, you did me a huge favor. I really ought to thank you properly. He pretended to nudge Skylar. Is this how you treat your supposed boyfriend? You don't even see him home. You haven't changed a bit from when you were dating me. Skylar looked at Ethan. Her eyes filled with a tenderness I had never seen before. It's okay. I'll take you home first. She took the keys from the valet without a single glance in my direction. Ethan kept playfully pestering her, just like a couple bickering. I've told you so many times, you have to spoil your boyfriend. Skylar, have you listened to a single word I've said? As the car door closed, I let out a soft laugh. It wasn't just his words. He was the one she held in her heart. Ethan was Skylar's first love. In the 3rd year we were together, she drunkenly called out his name. He had been an Oscar-winning actor who hit his peak right at the start of his career. Then he suddenly quit and moved abroad, and was never heard from again. That night I barely slept. After Skylar sobered up, she pulled me into her arms and told me everything. I didn't understand what love was back then. Even if we met again, all I would feel is guilt for what happened. So they met. I don't know what happened. Only that afterward, Skylar became even more generous with me. She threw resources at me like money was nothing. She said she loved watching me act, loved seeing me full of confidence in front of the camera. Just like I was at 20 on the day of my very first audition. Skylar, an investor, had gone against everyone's advice and insisted I be cast as the male lead. The movie ended up being a minor hit. My agent took me to a business dinner and told me to properly thank the investors. I didn't know my drink had been spiked. Just as panic set in, Skylar burst through the door. That night, Skylar and I did everything you're supposed to do and everything you're not. The love at first sight I'd felt at the audition burst forth like a flood, and I was completely lost in her. After that, Skylar promoted me, just like she's promoting Ethan now. I went to the condo Skylar had given me. After Ethan came back, Skylar rarely came over anymore. The 1 or 2 times she did, it was because she was taking away a gig or a resource from me. She would tell me to wait for her at the condo. Then, after I'd said it's fine, she'd hurry away. But today, she probably wouldn't be coming. Before heading to the condo, I asked the building staff to send up some large cardboard boxes. I put on some music and started packing up my things, little by little. I took down the photos from the display cabinet one by one. Skylar never took pictures with me. Most of the ones I could display were official promo shots from business events we attended together, but I still treasured them like gold. By the time the boxes were packed, Skylar had already emailed me several scripts. She sent me a text, too. I'm heading out of town for the next 2 weeks on business, so I probably won't reply right away. Once you've picked one, just contact my assistant. Happy birthday. Good night. I smirked and didn't reply. Before I left the condo, I deleted my fingerprint from the door lock. I left the key and key card on the tray in the entryway cabinet. The night shift security guard asked uncertainly, "You're not keeping any of this?" "Nope, not keeping it. I'd really appreciate it if you could help me dispose of it. Thank you for the trouble." The day the Melody officially announced its cast, Skylar, who was still out of town, actually gave me a call. "You didn't like any of the scripts?" My assistant said you never contacted him. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Aaron was slouched in the passenger seat. When he heard Skylar's voice, he raised an eyebrow in annoyance. "I'm not taking any roles for a while. I have other plans. I'm driving, so I'm hanging up now." Skylar didn't say anything, but just before the call ended, A deep male voice came clearly through the car's speakers. Is Leo still upset about the melody? Skylar, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I took a deep breath and met Aaron's questioning gaze. Aaron, I can handle terminating the contract myself. Don't worry. Out of respect for Skylar, most of the business clauses in my contract were in my favor. Even breaking it wouldn't cause too much of a problem. Just call me if you need anything. You can drop me off at the next intersection. I'm gonna meet Vivian. Aaron nodded, but then his voice trailed off. He awkwardly glanced out the window. Vivian Lynn happens to be in LA on a business trip. Once you've sorted everything out here, we can all head back to Chicago together. Even after I had terminated all my contracts, Skylar seemed to have no idea. In the past, she would know the second there was even a whisper of trouble concerning me, terrified I might be wronged in some way. The day I decided to quit, I had even worried that Skylar would try to stop me. After drafting the announcement for my socials, I had to laugh. I'd been overthinking it. It was a relief, actually. This was better. A hazy beginning, a clean end. The post was scheduled to go live automatically. When I got out of the shower, I had several missed calls on my phone. From my parents, from friends in the industry, and from a few producers and directors I'd worked with and gotten along with. Aaron's call came in right then, his voice rushed. You at home? Is it a good time? I'm coming over now. It wasn't until Aaron showed up at my door, covered in sweat, that I found out the news had exploded online. Photos of Skylar and Ethan checking in and out of hotels and visiting tourist spots together overseas had been leaked, right as I announced I was quitting. Plenty of people were making jokes. No matter how hot the boyfriend is, he still has to make way for the one that got away. I stared at the top voted comment on the screen, feeling nothing at all. Leo, are you okay? I've already got people taking the posts down. Don't let it get to you. I wanted to say he didn't have to, but the Lynn family was in politics. What I didn't care about, the Lynns might. And honestly, I really didn't want to have anything to do with Skylar ever again. Skylar didn't contact me until her second day back in LA. The trending topics had been mostly suppressed by then, and even the buzz around my retirement announcement had been pushed further and further down. Skylar asked me to meet her at the condo. I had just gotten to the door and was hesitating about entering the passcode when it opened from the inside. She was still in her high heels, her coat draped over her arm. It looked like she had just arrived, too. She pinched the bridge of her nose, her voice thick with congestion. Leo-chun, why are you quitting? Is it because I spoil you too much? Let you get away with everything? Or is it because you believe those online rumors about me and Ethan? I told you I'm just trying to make it up to him. I pressed my lips together tightly. I tried to recall any memories of her spoiling me and letting me get away with things. Before Ethan came back, maybe she had. I looked up and met Skylar's accusing eyes. I just wanted to take a break. These past few years of non-stop filming have been exhausting. And my grandpa just came back home, so there's a lot going on with the family. I'm planning on going back to spend time with them. I didn't mention Ethan. I didn't want to start another fight with Skylar before leaving LA. So I calmly stated my plans for the near future, leaving out the arranged marriage. Skylar let out a sigh of relief. She reached for my hand, but I subtly pulled away. I walked past her, toward the TV stand. Just as I pulled open the drawer to get some stomach medicine, Skylar's phone rang. She left in a hurry, her voice nearly cut off by the closing door. I have another meeting, I have to go. Let me know when you're leaving. I'll give you a ride. During my last few days in LA, I got together with a few of my old college roommates who had settled in the city. When they asked about my future plans, they were a bit wistful. You know, you were the one in our generation most likely to get the Grand Slam of acting awards. To just quit like that, damn, that's cold. I smiled, not hiding the part about the marriage. The wedding is secondary. The main reason is to go home and fight my brother for the family inheritance. The group burst out laughing. It wasn't until I brought up Skylar that their laughter died down and their expressions turned serious. I didn't tell her about the marriage. If she asks you guys, on second thought, Skylar probably wouldn't even care. I shook my head and laughed at myself. Never mind. She probably won't ask you anyway. That night, we drank at the bar until the early hours. The party only broke up when their respective wives showed up to pick them up. Standing outside the bar, the cold wind sobered me up considerably. I'm not much of a drinker. On the rare occasion I couldn't get out of a business dinner, Skylar would always say she'd come pick me up. But when the car arrived, it was always her assistant who opened the door and explained, "Mr. Chun, Ms. Booth's meeting hasn't ended yet. She asked me to take you home first." Then Ethan came back. Whenever we were at the same event, Skylar would show up on time without fail. Back then, she would still make a point to keep her distance from Ethan. But I knew she wasn't there to pick me up. I was pretty surprised when Skylar showed up at my front door. Because I was leaving LA the next day, movers were busy coming in and out of my apartment. The moment Skylar stepped out of the elevator, her face darkened. "Why are you suddenly moving? Are you still mad at me?" I froze. Just as I was about to speak, Ethan followed her out of the elevator. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit that made him look even taller and more slender. "Skylar, you're being too harsh." He shot a reproachful look at Skylar, then turned to me as if explaining, "Leo, I'm the one who asked Skylar to bring me here to find you." I glanced at the empty living room and managed a reasonably standard smile. "I'm planning to stay home for a while. I was just renting this place anyway, and the lease was almost up, so I arranged to give it back to the landlord. All the furniture is gone, so I can't really invite you in. When I first came to LA for college, my parents were worried I wouldn't be comfortable in the dorms, so they bought me an apartment. But my roommates turned out to be great, so I didn't move in until I started acting. Publicly, I always said I was renting. The day I decided to leave, I listed the place with a real estate agent. The sale just closed a couple of days ago." Skylar didn't say anything. Her gaze was fixed on my face, as if she were trying to read my emotions. Ethan scanned the living room before speaking. "Tomorrow is the press conference for my comeback film, and I'd like to invite you." Skylar said she could just text you the invitation, but I thought it would be better to ask you in person. "You'll come, won't you, Leo?" "No, I have a flight tomorrow." I only answered Ethan after signing the form the mover handed me. He really was an Oscar-winning actor after all. Ethan's eyes turned red almost instantly. He glanced at Skylar, his voice starting to tremble. "Leo, are you still mad at me?" "Skylar takes care of me because we used to. When I first met Ethan, I always lost my cool. Whenever he brought up his past with Skylar, I'd turn into a defensive porcupine. The weaker he acted, the more unreasonable I seemed. The more Skylar sided with him, the angrier I got. Later, I tried my best to avoid him. On the rare occasions we attended the same event, I wouldn't even say hello. I thought that would reduce the conflict between us, and that Skylar and I would argue less. But I was wrong. He would always show up. Even on my birthday, when I had specifically told Skylar I just wanted to celebrate with the two of us. He still came. I took a step back, my voice so calm it was almost monotone. "No, I also think the role in the melody is perfect for you. Otherwise, Director Lee wouldn't have agreed to cast you. Right, Ms. Booth?" Skylar's expression froze, and it took her a moment to process what I'd said. "What did you call me?" When Aaron came to pick me up for the airport, there was a woman with him. This must be Vivian Lynn, I thought. She wasn't quite what I had imagined. She had a neat, short haircut, wore a sharp business suit, and her eyes were bright and confident. Seeing the suitcase in my hand, she naturally took it from me. "Let me get that. Mr. Chun, welcome back to Chicago." She paused, her voice crisp and pleasant. Aaron playfully punched her shoulder. "You'll help my buddy, but not me? Traitor." For some reason, my face suddenly flushed, and I even stammered a little. "You can just call me Leo." Vivian nodded and repeated, "Leo." On the way to the airport, Skylar called me several times. I didn't answer. Skylar's promise to give me a ride echoed in my ears. I stared at my call history, then casually opened my package tracking app. After seeing the recipient had signed for it, I blocked Skylar's number. Before I left, I had a courier deliver a package to the front desk of Booth Corporation. It contained a simple breakup letter and a bank card. The amount on the card was enough to cover the cost of the condo Skylar had given me. I was in a hurry and didn't have time to deal with the condo itself. Vivian glanced at me several times, looking like she wanted to say something. I wasn't planning on hiding it from you. She's my ex-girlfriend. Well, I guess that's what she was. Vivian smiled for a moment, then bent down to pick up my wallet, which had fallen by my feet. Then she just said, "Okay." Before our plane took off, Ethan's movie press conference was already wrapping up. Thanks to Skylar's investment and attendance, plus the recent online drama, reporters were fired up and asking tons of questions. Most of them were about the relationship between Skylar and Ethan, until one reporter brought me up. "We heard that Mr. Chun quit acting and is planning to go home for an arranged marriage. Ms. Booth, can you confirm if this is true?" It wasn't just me. Aaron's attention was also glued to the live broadcast. Just as he was about to ask me about it, Skylar let out a cold scoff. She smiled dismissively, but her voice was filled with absolute certainty. "That's not true. He wouldn't." Hearing Skylar's words, the smile on Ethan's face practically froze. I lowered my eyes. Mimicking Skylar's tone, I muttered to myself, "And why the hell wouldn't I?" Back when Skylar and I were at our best, I used to joke with her, "Skylar, if you ever make me mad, I'm going to go home, inherit the family fortune, and find someone for an arranged marriage." Skylar had laughed, half in anger. She'd hold me tight, nibbling on my earlobe, asking over and over again, "An arranged marriage with who? Until I begged for mercy. "With no one. I won't get married. I only want you." I let out a low laugh. Leo Chen had grown up. He finally understood that a bird and a fish can't walk the same path. When we landed at the airport in Chicago, I felt a huge wave of relief. Because I was always away filming, I had rarely come home over the years. I hardly ever made it back, even for the holidays. When I did, it was only for a day or two. My brother would often call me in secret. "Hey, superstar, you can forget about your brother, but you can't forget about mom and dad. They miss you like crazy. It's Leo, Leo, Leo all day long." In the past, whenever I came home, I would cling to them. But now, I felt that strange mix of excitement and anxiety about being back. When I saw my parents and my grandpa waiting in the arrivals hall, my eyes suddenly stung. My brisk walk turned into a light jog. By the time I stood in front of them, the tears finally started to fall. "Grandpa, Dad, Mom, I'm home. I'll stay in Chicago and be with you from now on. Okay?" My mom patted my hand. Her voice choked with emotion. "It's good to be back. It's good to be back." By the time my brother came over, I had composed myself. Vivian followed behind him, pushing the luggage cart. When she saw my parents and grandpa, she greeted them naturally and familiarly. "Grandpa Chun, Mr. and Mrs. Chun. My parents said that since Leo just got back, your family must have a lot to talk about. So we'll wait a few days before paying you a proper visit." Vivian only left after dropping us off at home. As she was leaving, I called out to her. "Vivian, are you free tomorrow? I'd like to talk to you." A smile played in Vivian's eyes. "Okay, I'll come pick you up tomorrow." Unlike Skylar, Vivian was waiting outside my house bright and early the next day. I had just buckled my seatbelt when she pressed a delicate thermos into my hands. "My mom made some soup this morning. It's cold out, so warm up with this." I nodded, managing a reasonably bright smile. Chicago had changed a lot. After parking the car, Vivian took me on a tour of some of the livelier neighborhoods. For lunch, she found a private kitchen. When she pushed the menu in front of me, I stared at it for a long time. When I was with Skylar, I mostly deferred to her tastes. I almost never even looked at a menu. I ate what she ate. Sometimes, to maintain my figure, I wouldn't eat at all. Noticing my hesitation, Vivian took the menu back and ordered a few dishes. Without exception, they were all my favorites. I looked at her, astonished. "Did my brother tell you?" Vivian shook her head. "I remembered them from your vlogs. I just don't know if your tastes have changed over the years." The Lin family was in politics, but after Vivian returned from studying abroad, she went into business. She was the youngest of her generation, so the Lins let her have her way. "So what I mean is, I'm a fan of yours. You can continue to pursue the career you love. You don't have to worry about a thing." When Vivian spoke, her eyes sparkled. She was different from the image of the powerful career woman my brother had secretly described to me. She looked at me very seriously and said, word by word, "Leo, I want you to be able to be yourself." That evening, Vivian's words kept replaying in my mind. I had known since I was young that the Lin family had many rules. So I naturally assumed that as the grandson-in-law of the Lins, being an actor was not appropriate. But now Vivian was telling me that I could. I could be myself. Be the person from my vlogs. In my first few years as an actor, I loved making vlogs to share my life and work. There were clips of me secretly ordering late-night takeout behind my agent's back. Clips of me howling with hunger. Clips of me conquering my fear of heights by hanging from a wire for a whole day. Later, Skylar told me that as a public figure, I needed to be more mindful of my image and behavior. So I set all my vlogs to private and never posted another one. So, I shot up in bed, the realization dawning on me. So Vivian had been secretly following me even back then? When Vivian's parents came to our house, they brought a ton of gifts. After I agreed to the marriage, our two families had already secretly started planning the wedding. When my parents told me about it, 8 out of every 10 words were praises for Vivian's thoughtfulness and consideration. The living room suddenly became lively. Vivian's mother was very outspoken and cheerful. She was very different from my impression of the Lin family. She took my hand and slipped a watch onto my wrist that was obviously priceless. I later found out that this watch had been passed down through the Lin family for generations. Our Leo is so handsome. No wonder that silly girl of mine has had a crush on you for over a decade. And she actually got you. Vivian's mom was beaming, her voice full of undisguised joy. Both Vivian's and my face turned red at the same time. Vivian told me her mother grew up in the North. Unlike the gentle ways of Chicago, her mom wouldn't hesitate to twist her and her father's ears if they stepped out of line. And yet, her grandma doted on her the most. I smiled and nodded, and I really started to think that maybe marrying Vivian wouldn't be so bad after all. As I was lost in thought, Vivian's grandmother called me over. Vivian followed close behind me, as if she were afraid I'd be bullied by her family. Her grandmother huffed and puffed with mock anger, but she was smiling from ear to ear. I used to think her grandmother was stern and imposing, but now I found her cute and endearing. The Chun boy is a good kid. If Vivian dares to bully you in the future, you tell Grandma, and I'll definitely break her legs. I smiled and agreed. Okay. The wedding was set for New Year's Day. That was less than half a month away. I thought that, with so little time, we'd only have time to buy off-the-rack tuxedos. But it turned out Vivian had already secretly had 2 sets custom made. When she took me for the fitting, she deliberately didn't invite my brother. Let's give your brother a surprise. I can just imagine his face when he sees you in a tux at the wedding. I could imagine it too. My brother doted on me more than anyone in our family. Vivian smiled and took my hand in hers. Leo, thank you for being willing to marry me. Honestly, it feels like a dream. It wasn't just Vivian. I felt like I was in a dream too. It wasn't until I put on the tuxedo that I truly felt the reality of getting married. And I realized that I hadn't thought about Skylar in a long time. I took a deep breath. It was time for me and for time itself to move forward. When I came out, adjusting my bow tie, Vivian was so nervous she couldn't even look at me. Her voice trembled slightly. Beautiful. Leo, you're so beautiful. For some reason, a strange emotion washed over me. I wanted to cry, but I also wanted to laugh. Seeing Vivian's flustered state, my eyes welled up, tears threatening to spill. That just made Vivian even more nervous. I burst out laughing through my tears and, for the first time, took her hand. You're such a dork, Vivian Lin. I wrote all our wedding invitations by hand. I'd studied calligraphy for years as a kid, never imagining it would come in handy for this. As the ink spread on the paper, Vivian wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. My body tensed for a second, then relaxed. I was gradually starting to accept Vivian's love, and I was trying my best to get used to it. Sorry, I startled you. Vivian released her arms and took a step back. When I turned around, I met her somewhat crestfallen gaze. I took a step closer to her, wrapped my hands around her waist, and stood up on my toes. It's okay. Just startle me more often and I'll get used to it. The clouds in Vivian's eyes instantly cleared, and she broke into a goofy grin. I leaned in and gently brushed my lips against hers. Just as I was about to say something, Vivian suddenly clasped my waist, pulling me closer. She captured my lips, kissing me with a wild, untamed passion, until my brother suddenly burst into the study. Vivian Lin.
Liu Chen.
Vivian pulled back slightly and shot my brother an annoyed glare. I nervously broke free from her embrace, turned around, grabbed a calligraphy brush, and started scribbling nonsense. It looked like gibberish. In the days I spent with Vivian, I came to understand another saying. The most amazing things don't show up too early, but they always arrive at just the right time. When Skylar realized she couldn't contact Liu Chen, her voice trembled with panic. First, she had her assistant check Leo's schedule. She relaxed a little only after confirming he had returned to Chicago. She thought he was just being petulant because she hadn't taken him to the airport, so she didn't try to contact him again. It had always been this way. When she upset him, he would deliberately ignore her for a few days. Then, when the time was right, she would coax him a little and everything would be fine. So this time, she did as she always did, waiting for the right opportunity to give him an out. But over a month passed. Leo still hadn't unblocked her. It wasn't until her assistant brought in a package. Ms. Booth, the front desk just found a package that Mr. Chun sent to you a month ago during a handover. Skylar's eyelid twitched inexplicably. She tore it open impatiently. Inside was a bank card and a handwritten letter. The note was simple. If all goes as planned, we probably won't see each other again. Skylar, I wish you peace and happiness. She had her assistant check the balance on the card. $8 million. Skylar suddenly remembered that on Leo's birthday, he had asked her the market value of the condo. She hadn't thought much of it at the time and had told him $8 million. Skylar let out a laugh that was more anger than amusement. She grabbed her car keys and rushed to the condo. Pushing the door open, her breath caught in her throat when she saw the key and card on the entryway cabinet. She checked the living room and the bedroom. All the photos of them together, all the stuffed animals he had begged her to buy, they were all gone. When she asked a few of Leo's close friends, their stories were all perfectly aligned. It was only then that she seemed to realize she might actually be losing him. The next time I heard from Skylar was 3 days before my wedding. Her voice was cold and sharp, laced with anger. Liu Chun, there's a limit to this nonsense. Do you really think leaving a breakup note and a bank card means we're over? Do you have any idea what I... Before Skylar could finish, Ethan snatched the phone away. His voice was as gentle as ever. Leo, Skylar has been worried sick about you these past few days. She couldn't bring herself to call you, so I made her use a different number. I heard you're getting married soon. Is that true? It was Vivian who answered the phone. I was in the kitchen, busy making a cake, when she brought my phone to me. I didn't think much of it and told her to answer. She casually put it on speaker. At the sound of the voices, my brother was the first one to rush into the kitchen. I was carefully frosting the cake and replied distractedly, "Yes. Is there something you need? If not, I'm gonna hang up." There was a clear pause on the other end of the line. Then the sound of something falling to the ground. When a voice came through again, it was Skylar's, filled with disbelief. "Liu Chen, tell me, who are you marrying? You're 27, not 22 or 23. Who gets an arranged marriage with..." Skylar's words got uglier and uglier. Before my brother could start swearing, I quickly cut her off. "Yes, I'm 27, so I'm getting married. Is there a problem with that, Ms. Booth?" On the day of the wedding, my brother was on high alert. He was terrified Skylar would show up and cause a scene. The truth is, Skylar did come. She didn't go to the reception hall, she stormed directly into my dressing room. The anxiety that had been building in my chest dissipated the moment I saw Ethan trailing behind her. I was sitting in the makeup chair, the artist redoing my makeup. Skylar's fists were clenched. Took her a long moment to find her voice. She stood behind me, her gaze fixed on my reflection in the mirror. Leo Chin, you're serious about this. Do you even know her well enough to marry her? Do you love her? Just as Vivian arrived with security, Ethan tugged on Skylar's sleeve. He whispered a warning to her. Skylar, stop it. Since Leo has decided to get married, we should just wish him well. Okay? I never expected Ethan to follow Skylar all the way to Chicago. I was even more surprised to learn that in the time since I'd left LA, he and Skylar still hadn't officially gotten back together. Vivian came to my side, standing opposite Skylar. For the first time, I caught a whiff of danger from Vivian. She shielded me behind her, her tone laced with a sharp edge. Ms. Booth, is there something urgent you need with my husband? Years ago, the Lin family's status in LA was even higher than it is now in Chicago. Later, the family stepped back and returned to Chicago. It seemed Skylar knew who Vivian was, because she let out a small, cold laugh. Ms. Lin, get married if you want, but what's this about stealing my boyfriend? Just as Vivian looked ready to throw a punch, my brother burst in. He was furious. He shoved Skylar aside, his large frame shielding me. The security guards Vivian had brought immediately stepped forward and restrained her and Ethan. The color drained from Ethan's face in an instant. Skylar gritted her teeth, not making a sound as the guards held her. Once things had quieted down a bit, she summoned her last bit of strength and looked at me, her face contorted in pain. Leo, is this enough? Will you come back with me, please? Ethan had wanted to call the police, but Skylar's reaction was something he had never expected. In the end, all he could do was clamp a hand over his mouth as huge tears streamed down his face and stumble out of the room. Ms. Booth, that's enough. Any more and you'll be overacting. I looked at Skylar and let the cold sarcasm drip from my voice. Thanks to Skylar, I'd managed to avoid any real scandals in the industry over the years. But the label of kept lover was nailed firmly to my name. She never acknowledged our relationship. No response, no public confirmation. And now that we were on different paths, she finally admits to what we were. Maybe she thought I'd be moved. A grand declaration of love in front of the one that got away, followed by this pathetic display for my sake. But all I felt was ridicule. As Vivian led me out of the dressing room, Skylar was surrounded by the people she'd brought with her. Vivian glanced back at Skylar and gave a cold command. Watch her. Wait until the ceremony is over, then take her to the hospital. Skylar was basically forced to watch my entire wedding ceremony with Vivian. The moment it ended, she was sent to the hospital. Vivian also arranged for her to be immediately transferred to another hospital. The ambulance ride from Chicago to LA would take nearly 11 hours. As I was changing into my reception suit, Vivian pulled me aside to tell me what she'd done. Her mood was a little down, but my eyes widened in surprise. Ms. Lin, you are truly one of a kind. Vivian pursed her lips. Are you upset about it? She was jealous. I ignored her, adjusted my suit cuffs, and started walking toward the reception hall. As I walked, I deliberately drew out my words. Oh, this suit is so tight. Is there a kind soul who can help me adjust it? Vivian happily trotted over. See? I told you she was a dork. Later, while making the rounds, I was surprised to see Director Lee. Vivian greeted him with easy familiarity. I didn't think you'd make it. Director Lee's gaze shifted between the two of us with a knowing smile. When Leo turned down the role and said he was getting married, I wondered who it could be. If I'd known it was you, there's no way I would have let him quit. Vivian lightly tapped her glass against Director Lee's. It's not too late. His next movie is booked. Director Lee took a sip of his drink, his eyes landing on me. I have a script. It's even better for you than the melody. The movie Director Lee was talking about was called The Facade. The following fall, Vivian went with me to the set. The melody was also scheduled for a national holiday release. When we had some free time, Vivian and I went to see it in theaters. In the end, Ethan didn't get the part. News that he had tried to pressure Skylar into marriage and been rejected went viral, dominating the headlines for days. Director Lee had a talk with Skylar. They came to an agreement and the actor was replaced. The fallout must have been ugly, because the Booth family forced Skylar to pull all her investments from the film industry. The Facade was a massive hit upon its release. And because of that film, I won the Grand Slam of Acting Awards. During an interview, a reporter asked me a question. You chose to retire from acting and then you made a comeback. What happened during that time? I looked down at Vivian in the audience, who was holding a camera, and answered seriously. I met someone. She told me that I could be myself. And taking this opportunity, I'd like to say something to her. The truth is, once I had her, my life was already a grand slam. That night, Vivian held me in her arms and wouldn't let go. I found out later, Skylar had also been at the press conference. 3 years into our marriage, Vivian's sense of insecurity was still as strong as ever. I rolled over and sat on top of her, whispering in her ear again and again. Vivian Lynn, you are not Skylar. Be more confident. Leochin loves you, and only you. 5 years into our marriage, I was in the study and stumbled upon a scrapbook. It chronicled almost my entire life. Every movie, every event, every important moment. She had even carefully noted the random preferences I mentioned in my old vlogs. As I flipped through it, my eyes landed on the very first photo. I looked to be only 3 or 4 years old. I was sitting on a step, holding a lollipop bigger than my face. I had no memory of it. Vivian came into the study and saw what I was holding, looking flustered and nervous. Ms. Lynn, you've been hiding this for a long time. I smiled and snuggled into her arms. Later, Vivian told me about the childhood photo. When she was 6, her grandmother brought 3-year-old me over to the Lynn's house to play. She coaxed me with a giant lollipop. She asked the 3-year-old Leo, "Will you marry me when you grow up?" 3-year-old Leo didn't understand, but he wanted the candy. So in a tiny, sweet voice, he said, "Okay." And so, the two families arranged our engagement. It was perfect timing. But there was something I never told Vivian. I saw a flicker of light in the ashes, and in that light, I saw her.